All right, let's continue with the next part of our series on setting up your Cardano stake pool server and how you can get your node up and running. So in the previous video, I went over the basic server setup and how to get your SSH keys established, how to create a user for your server, and we're going to go more into detail about how to further secure your server. Again, security is key when running your stake pool, so I want to put a lot of focus on here. Again, we're using this guide, makeadapool.com. So be sure to, look at this. I don't know who created this. Again, be sure to donate to them. It's a really good guide. And we won't use all of this guide still, but this will be a good start to have us start out. So let's just start out here and let's look at the basics of, you've got a user now, you've created your own user account. So the first thing we want to do after getting our SSH keys and getting logged in is we want to disable the root user. Now, why do we want to do this? The root user is the main user. Hackers try to find this user quite a bit. They try to do searches for this, so we want to disable the root user. So you want to first log into your server as the not root user. You want to use your SSH keys like we did before. To go back up, let me just remind you how to do that real quickly. So you don't have to go back and watch the old video. So you're going to type this in. You're going to type in SSH-I, and then you're going to put in your the link to your private key on your machine, and then you're going to type in your username on the server, not the root, but the username you have created at the IP address of your server. And here, and it's going to ask you for your password, and that's the password of your SSH key. So that will get you into your server. So once you've done that, you want to edit here your SSH daemon config, right? So you're going to type sudo, which again, sudo is administrative access basically. Sudo nano etc/ssh/sshd_config. And this opens a config file, and it's using Nano Editor. I'm not going to go over what Nano Editor is, but it's like a text editor on Linux. And you want to find the line that says permit root login. And this part should look like this. Permit root login, it should be no. So you're going to, if it says yes, you want to set this to no, and you're going to hit Control X to exit, and then Y to return and confirm the saving. So what's going to happen then is you want to validate this before you go further. So you're going to type sudo sshd-t, and if there's no errors, then you need to restart your SSH. So sudo service SSH and then restart. Again, be sure that you're logged into your own user account, not the root account, because the goal is to basically stop the login from the root account. But what you're going to do is you're going to open up a new terminal window, and you're going to try to log in with the root user now to see that if it's possible. So you want to do SSH root and then the IP of the server, and you shouldn't be able to do that. So a hacker can't get in now with the root master account, basically. So that adds an extra layer of security. So if a hacker is going through searching usernames and they try root, it's not going to work. So that's in knowing that every server basically comes, with root as a default, then they're going to be trying that account. So you're going to disable that. Next thing is you want to disable the password. So it helps prevent against brute force attacks. What's a brute force attack? That's trying every combination of password, basically 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5 6, 1 2, going through all the combinations of passwords, particularly the common passwords. So basically, by disabling the password and only allowing the login through the SSH, then you're adding extra protection to your account. Now, here's some warnings here, right? So you're going to log in as the user account that you have with your SSH key. Hopefully you've saved the command we just talked about earlier to log in using your SSH key. And you don't want to use a password or anything. You want to be sure you're logging in with your SSH key. And that makes sure that you have a way to get in to your server other than just your password, because once we turn off the password, we disable it, you're not going to be able to get into the server. So first, you're going to add your SSH key once you're logged in. You can do sudo nano /etc/ssh/sshd_config, and you're going to get back into this nano terminal that's got your information here, and you're going to look for the part that says password authentication. Be sure it doesn't have a comment, so you want to uncomment it if it's there, and you want to change the value to no. And also set permit empty passwords to no. And again, uncomment it if it has a comment, uncomment it. So basically, you're going to have here, this kind of shows you how this will be set up. Password authentication, no. Permit empty passwords, no. Then again, hit Control X to exit, and Y or return to confirm the file saving, basically. Then you're going to validate the system of SSH configs again. So sudo sshd-t. And if there's no error, then you restart the SSH again. Sudo service SSH restart. Okay. And it's important to validate these things just to make sure that there's no problems. If you do run into an issue, be sure to check your file again and make sure everything's set up correctly. Now, what you want to do after SSH is restarted, you want to open a new terminal. So keep your current terminal open, but open a new one and try logging in with your password to see if that's possible. So you do SSH, you type in your user, right? The user you created and the IP of your server, and it shouldn't be possible. It just gets permission denied. Okay. So now we've disabled the root user, we've disabled the password. So that's really great. The next thing is you want to do is you want to change your SSH port. So each on the server, SSH is allowed to communicate by one port, and there is a certain port that always comes with every server, and attackers know that port, so they're going to try to attack your SSH on that port. So if you change your SSH port number, then it makes it more difficult for hackers. It's one more thing that they have to find, one more combination of things they have to find out to hack your server. So we're all here about increasing the difficulty of hacking into your server, because if they get into your server, they can start doing things with your wallet. You don't want them to get into your server. So what you're going to do is you're going to log in as the user you created on your server, and then you're going to edit the SSH config again. So you're going to do sudo nano /etc/ssh/sshd_config. They may be asking, why don't we do all this at once? Why we keep going back into the SSH config? This just makes sure that you're doing one thing at a time so you don't mess anything up, and you're being very calculating for everything you do. So the thing to note here when you look at this is you look at the port 22 line, and you want to change the number to a random 4-digit number, and not something easy like 1234 or 111 or 000 or anything like that. But the line should like this, port XXXX, and this is something for you to choose the port that you want. Be sure that you write this down. Be sure you remember it. Be sure you have it saved somewhere, because you don't want to lose your port number. Then you won't be able to get into your server. You want to then validate this with the SSH config. So you do sudo after you close the file, save it, you go sudo sshd-t. If everything's fine, again, sudo service SSH restart. So doing a lot of repetitive steps here, but it helps to make sure that you do this over and over again. So then what you're going to do is open a new terminal window, and you're going to try to log in with the new port number. So again, don't log out of your other terminal just yet. Keep it open, but you want to try to log in now with the port number, make sure it works. So the big thing here, you're going to do SSH, but now you're going to add this -p and then the port number you created. That's important. That's the new thing we're adding. Then -i, and then you put the link to your private key, SSH key, like you were before, and then your username at the IP address of your server. And here's an example here. -p, this person did 1234 as the port number. Is not recommended. Then they have the path to their private key, and then you have your username, and then don't put username, but put the username on the server and the IP address to log into your server. Okay. Now, what you're going to notice is as you go through this, you're going to have to do this on 3 separate servers. You're going to have your block producing node and your 2 relay nodes. So all of this is very repetitive stuff you're going to do over and over again. If you're really advanced, you know a lot about Linux, you could do this in a script or kind of automate this. But probably for you new beginners, you're going to do this over and over again. So really, all of these logins are very similar other than the IP address of the server. So each time you do these repetitive steps, you do everything the same except for you change to the new server that you've set up. So you have 3 separate servers, 3 separate IP addresses. Again, what this says is tip, save this customized command to a text file, logging in later. You don't want to lose how to do this. So you want this saved to a text file. Okay, so now what you want to do is open a new terminal window and try logging in with the -P22 or without the -P to see if you can still get in using the default 22 port for SSH. So here's the command here, SSH-I. You put the link here and your username at the IP of your server, and you should get this saying you can't, you can't connect to the host. Okay. Now you've got that. Now here comes a quite critical part. It's with all of this security, if some hacker gets your keys or they have a way that they can get into your server, they're going to compromise your server. And so the best thing you can do to protect yourself is to enable two-factor authentication. And what this is doing is this is using the Google, two-factor authentication. And there's some warnings here, and you're going to need to get the Google Authenticator on your phone. That's the one that I would recommend using. But what this is saying here is like do not close the terminal window until after you finished enabling the two-factor authentication and successfully logged in with your codes on another terminal window. If you close the current terminal window and fail to log in with the two-factor authentication, you get locked out of your server. Your server's wasted. You got to start again. It's quite bad. So what this is called the Google PAM pluggable authentication module. So once you're logged into your server, so you log in your server again, and you do sudo apt-get install uh, libpam-google-authenticator. Okay. And what this says is it tells you about additional disk space you need. You want to click yes, continue, yes. Okay. And then you want to run the initialization app by just typing Google-authenticator. And this asks you, do you want authentication tokens to be time-based? You want to say yes. Pretty good security there. And then what happens is a giant QR code will appear. Okay. Now, this is where you scan the OTP QR code with your phone. So you open the Google Authenticator app and you basically use your QR, you use your QR code scanner to scan that on the Authenticator app to bring this into the Authenticator. You may have to expand the terminal window to full screen for this to show up. If it's larger than your screen, scroll up. But there is a link at the top, and you can paste that in your browser to see the code. Now, critical thing here: emergency scratch codes are used when you lose access to your OTP app, and each code can only be used once. So the critical thing is to take all of this, your emergency scratch codes. I'd copy all of this information, your secret key, your verification code. Take that, copy it, and store it in a secure place. Because you're going to need this in case your phone gets damaged, something like that. You can't use your Authenticator app. There's no backup. So the super critical point, be sure to save these, keep them in a safe or keep them in the secure place, print them out or something where it's hard for somebody to hack your computer and get to them, but you have them in case you need them for whatever reason. Okay. So once you've saved this information in a very safe and secure place, then it's going to ask you, do you want me to update your home .root Google Authenticator file? And you're going to say yes. Do you want to disallow multiple users of the same authentication token? This restricts you to one login about every 30 seconds. Increases your security. Yes, we want to increase security always on this. So yes. By default, a new token is generated every 30 seconds by the mobile app. In order to compensate for possible time skew between the client and the server, we allow extra token before and after the current time. This allows for a time skew of up to 30 seconds between the authentication server and client. Anyways, I won't read all of this, but do you want to do so? And you can say no. Okay. And then you can say if the computer you're logging into isn't hardened against brute force login attempts, you are able to rate limit for the authentication module. By default, this limits attackers to no more than 3 login attempts every 30 seconds. Yes, we want to enable rate limiting. That means a hacker can't keep attacking you so often. Okay. So once you click yes and you return, now we need to enable the two-factor authentication PAM SSHD configuration. So what you're going to do is you're going to do sudo nano, the nano text editor, /etc/pam.d/sshd. Okay. Now, by default, PAM will ask for a password, but we disabled the password earlier. It causes a conflict and will prevent you from logging in. So you need to tell Pam not to ask for the password. So what you're going to do when you're in this file, you're going to find this line, the at include comment auth. It's usually near the beginning of the file. And you want to put a comment, which is the pound sign, to disable it, like it says here. So include comment auth, you want to put a pound there. And then instead, you want to tell it to use Google Authenticator. So you're going to add this line at the end of the file, go all the way to the end of the file, and type in auth required pam underscore Google underscore authenticator.so. And your file may look something like this. It may have more things inside here, more lines, but just put this line at the end, this line that starts with auth here. Okay. You're going to Control X to exit, and then Y or return to confirm and save this file. And then you want to check your SSH configs again, sudo sshd-t. Okay. Getting close to finishing up this two-factor authentication stuff. So now you need to enable the two-factor authentication in your SSHD config. So again, you're going to sudo nano /etc/ssh/sshd underscore config. And then now you want to find the challenge response on authentication and set it to yes. Looks like this, challenge authentication set to yes. And then you're going to add this at the bottom of the line. So authentication methods, public key, comma keyboard, /interactive. Okay. And so, what this is saying, that above it's telling SSH that one, you need the public SSH key and you need the one-time OTP code. And hopefully you're familiar with the one-time OTP code that you get with your Authenticator app. So X to exit, Y to save the file. Then you're going to validate the syntax of your SSHD configuration again, sudo SSHD-T, assuming nothing's wrong. Restart SSH one more time. So sudo systemctl restart sshd.service. So you notice there's a lot of restarting SSHD and checking things. But the critical thing here, be sure to pay attention to these warnings. Do not close the current terminal window. You need to open a new terminal window, make sure you can get in with two-factor authentication, because now you're working with Google and maybe there's a problem in your setup with the two-factor authentication and you don't want to get locked out. You need to be able to save yourself in case you get locked out. So what's going to happen is, now when you try to log in, you're going to be asked for your password, and it's also going to ask you for the OTP code that you get from your Google Authenticator app. So your Google Authenticator app will have a record for your server, and it will generate the OTP code. So here's an example of how you get in. So you try to log in like you were before. So here's the instructions right here, how to log in. And the key things are, now you're doing the -P for the port you created. You have the -I with your private key, and then your username and the IP address again. And then you enter your passphrase for your SSHD key. So you enter your passphrase, and then it's going to ask for the verification code. So you get the verification code off of your phone using the Google Authenticator app. And then once you do that, you should be able to get in. If you don't do that, you've got a problem, and you need to go do some research on Google or Stack Overflow of how to make sure that you didn't mess something up, or otherwise you can get locked out of here. Then you've got to kill your server and start from the beginning of all these tutorials again and start again. So you don't want to get into that situation. Okay. Again, note, we haven't even started talking about the Cardano stake pool. This is just to secure your server, and this is pretty standard Linux security stuff anyway. More of like a class on Linux server security, and I admittedly am not like the number one expert on all of this, but these steps are at least help you out quite a bit to make sure that you're quite a bit more secure. Okay. Next thing, more security items. We're going to secure the shared memory. So you want to edit your FS tab. So sudo nano -etc-fs tab. Insert the following line at the bottom of the file: none/run/shm space tmpfs, and then you want to do defaults, comma, row .00. And again, exit the file, save it, validate the syntax again by sudo mount -a, and then if there's no problem, you do sudo reboot. Okay, reboot your server. Okay, so now you want to log in again after you've rebooted your server. If you get kicked out, log in again. And now you want to disable IPv6. This is just an extra attack surface, so really doesn't hurt anything to have IPv6. It's just, you're just eliminating attack surfaces. So you want to edit grub, you use sudo nano /etc/default/grub. And you want to add this IPv6.disable equal 1 into the grub underscore cmd line underscore Linux underscore default and grub underscore cmd line underscore Linux, separated by other commas with a space. So here's what this looks like here. Grub cmd line underscore Linux underscore default. And you at the end of this line, you put IPv6.disable equal 1. And at this line here, so grub underscore cmd line underscore Linux, and you put IPv6 dot disable equal 1 as well at the end of that line. Save the file, exit, check grub, update grub, so sudo update dash grub 2, and then you want to check and see if IPv6 is currently enabled. So you run this command here, test dash f slash proc slash net slash if underscore inet6, and echo parentheses IPv6 is enabled dot parentheses these two lines here, upward slashes, echo parentheses IPv6 is disabled. Okay, so just type that go to this website and you can just copy the commands here, make it easy for yourself. Then it may be enabled. If it is, reboot the server, sudo reboot, log back in and check it again using the same command, and this time IPv6 should be disabled. Okay. Next security feature we're going to add. I know we're doing a lot of security features, but we're getting close to the end and the security features. And then once we do that, we'll get directly into the Cardano pool setup. Remember, you're going to do all of this on all three of your servers, so it's quite a tedious set of steps. But once you do it, your servers will be secure, and you don't really have to do this again. Okay. So what this is to ban IP for accessing your server after X failed login attempt. So if an attacker is doing a brute force attack or something, trying to log in, it's going to ban an IP address from accessing your server. So if somebody's sitting at their machine, they're going to have to be using a VPN or something to get different IP addresses when they're attacking server. It's just another way to secure your server. So install fail to ban, use sudo apt-get install fail to ban -y. Then you want to edit the fail to ban config file. So sudo nano -etc -fail to ban -jail.local. And you add the following lines at the bottom of the file, replacing your SSH port number with the right value, right? So you have this square brackets SSHD enabled is true. Port is your port number that you've selected. Be sure you remember your port number. Filter equals SSHD. Log path equals /var/log/auth.log. And max retry equals 10. You can put whatever number here you want, but I guess the recommendation is 10. But if you feel like you're the type of person who locks yourself out, forgets the password or something quite a bit, you can set this value higher. Just want to balance that out, number of attempts versus not locking yourself out. So this did 10, you might do 20, 100, but I wouldn't go too high. Probably 10 is the best value. Then you do exit again, save, and then you save the file, and then you're going to restart the fail to ban. So system CTL restart fail to ban, and that should get you going pretty good. So that's the extent right now for the security we're going to set up. At the next session, we're going to talk through more about the further security measures, and we'll really start getting more into setting up the Cardano node. So we're getting past a lot of the critical stuff you have to do to set up your server, but there's still a long way to go. So be sure to tune in during the next session. As always, be sure that you are staking your Cardano with my pool, which that is the ANCH, Anchor of Hope pool. Be sure to stake your Cardano there. And look forward to talking to you next time as we get more into the details setting up your stake pool. Thank you.